This is the Shopware Hub Cast, where your host Sander Mangel and Dennis Höting, resident community hub expert and director of product development at Shopware, uncover the stories of the people that make our community. This episode, they talk to Max Schlemmer, CTO at swkweb, and currently ranking number 1 in the Community Hub leaderboard.
So, Max, take us back to the beginning. At some point, you woke up one morning and you were, I want to do discovery in my life. Or maybe not. Maybe there was a whole backstory to it. Tell us.
Yeah, I mean, it initially started at 2003 when I first started programming. But back then it was more like a hobby. It was some C, it was some PHP. And then at some point in the future, at 2008, I think it was, I started a company we initially did mostly websites and not really online shops or e-commerce or anything like that. But then after that, we did our first homepages back then with a custom written CMS system. But soon we discovered, okay, that's not all. And then I also started studying physics, but my colleague started to make like his apprenticeship. There they did a lot of e-commerce. And then I slipped in there. And also came first in touch with e-commerce. Back then it was XT-commerce, the first project. I needed to install a plugin, which was basically copying the code to the right places. I don't know. It was like a very adventurous thing to do, actually, because you could do that once, but the next time the line numbers did not match or the features were not compatible with each other. So, yeah. So this was the first project sometime. And then at some point, we had the first Oxid project, which was nicer in that sense because you have now a real concept of the plugin and that you can install the plugins. And that was nice, but it was still, I don't know. I cannot describe the feeling, but I did not really like the extension system back then. And in the meantime, it was only my side project, basically. I mean, physics was still the main, or is still the main thing. And then at some point, I think around 2012 or 13, we had a request to port a Shopware 3.5 shop to Shopware 4. This was the first moment when I came in touch with Shopware. And then with the experience I had back then, I digged into Shopware 4 then, and it was like really nice extension system. I really felt, okay, there were some people who thought about how to really extend it. I mean, back then it was mainly hooks, some events, but I really liked the concept. You could do everything at every place, and it was well thought through. Yeah, this is basically how I came to Shopware and how I first fell in love with Shopware.
I love that. And I think it shows a little bit your age that you tried to build your own CMS. I think developers back in the early days love to build their own CMS, only to find out it's a horrible idea. Maybe except if you're called Stefan and Sebastian.
Yeah, I mean, we also added back then some shopping capabilities, but we soon realized, okay, when we want to integrate, for example, PayPal or so, it's quite a mess. And back then also the PayPal documentation was really bad, and it was really a lot of work to do to get things working. So we soon quit that path.
Yeah, I love that you call out the extensibility of Shopware as one of the reasons why you fell in love with it, right? Because I think that is a credit due to the open source nature. Maybe even though that it wasn't open source truly back then, but still that being
Shopware
extensible,
4 was open source then, and Shopware 4 was the first open source thing, I think. To be honest, before I have no idea, or maybe 3.5, but I think Shopware 4 was really open source, and you could look in the source code, and then it was really nice because you could like look at all the different things, how they also interplayed, and where the best point to enter is. I mean, back then there was also this S-basket class and S-core and S-system and whatnot. It was still quite a challenge, but it was nice and it was easy to extend. I mean, template also, Oxid had Smarty, XT-commerce, I don't remember what they had. I think nothing.
I think if I reckon correctly, that was 2010. And then really open source, like going open source really made a difference, right? Also, from a company perspective in how much it's used and how much we are interacting, of course, with the community. Did you what you came in touch with Shopware at that early moments where you right now you are a really active contributor. So how did that start? Did you contribute to the Shopware open source project from the beginning, or what sparked your interest here?
Yeah, so I mean, in the beginning was back then there was IRC was a thing. It was on Freenode, and I soon joined the IRC channel of Shopware, which was there. I mean, there were some core developers, also some people one might still know. For example, Zona was there. He was back then in his apprenticeship as well, but also Uwe and Timo, and so Uwe from the Kellerkinder back then. So they were all active, and it was like a really nice also feeling to be able to speak about things. And I mean, you could send links to GitHub, and we discussed how we can solve different things. And so that was the initial beginning I really liked, and that you really could look into the code. And then I think it was around 2014. I did the first, my first pull request back then. It was to Shopware 431, which was it was a front end bug, basically some scrolling for reviews. And then, I mean, a customer told us back then, okay, hey, there is this bug. And then I looked into that, and then I found, okay, I could now fix that in the template for just them, but it would back then the blocks were not so perfect. It would mean to overwrite a big portion of the code when we want to have it in the template, or we could use a patch. But I found the best idea to just fix it upstream. Then it's fixed for everyone. Then it's also, I don't need to take care of this patch anymore. And yeah, so I found that idea really appealing. Yeah, but then I think we then did the first plugins in the Shopware store. We did 2015 or so. So, and then also, I think it was in combination with that, because the next PR I think was then 2 years later. So I was not really a regular contributor, but I did the next PR then in 2016. But from then I also found out that, okay, and I need to, or when I went to have a feature in a plugin, which we have in the store, I really need to improve the Shopware core that I can implement my feature. And that also drove a bit for me the things that I really wanted to shape, how things are implemented and how I can fix them and also improve them for my needs. So, yeah.
I think you're pointing out something really one of the magic aspects of open source, right? If you can have that force and change something in the system, so in the core basically, or in the standard, you not only have the big upside of you don't have to do something special against the standard, you can just change the standard, and you're also as a little side note, you're even contributing and providing value for everybody. And that's something really great. And you're pushing the overall solution forward, and you're investing your time in something that grows in value. So that's a good investment. So it's a cool notion.
Yeah, definitely. The thing is that, I mean, okay, sometimes in particular for store plugins, one needs to wait by now, a Shopware 6 time, one needs to wait to the next major release or maybe some minor release when the feature is released. But in general, I really like the idea also to clean up things, to make them better for me to use. I think that really helps a lot. And also for customers, it helps because you don't need to carry your own patches, basically. They will be upstream fixed. Probably someone else has the problem as well.
Yeah, got it. Yeah, cool. So, and now you are really, really active contributing in the Shopware community. So maybe you just describe what drives you here. What do you enjoy most in being part of the Shopware community? Maybe how has your approach in contributing evolved over time? So tell us.
Yeah, so I mean, we then had Shopware 6 time. I mean, I think Shopware 5, I did some regular things, but then really it first came when Shopware 6 came out. Then I think I stepped up, and because we had a customer who moved very early on to Shopware 6 back when it was not so usable, let's say like this. So Shopware 6 one. And so, and there a lot of things came up. And I mean, we didn't want to fix it ourselves. We also needed to port all of our plugins to Shopware 6. So it was a parallel thing. And then there I really could help shape things. And I really liked the idea to also, for example, back then we had a plugin where we needed to do something which was in the Shopware core behind some private methods, basically. So, but we needed that same computation, and therefore I back then go in the Shopware core, refactored it, make it more public, that it's now in services and that we can use it also in our plugins. In the meantime, I have basically copied the code to our plugin, but as you know, when you copy things, you don't get the changes which will be upstream. But in the next major release of Shopware, when we really were sure we can use these features, then I refactored our code. I deleted all of the copied code, and then I really could made use of the things I upstream changed and could implement that in a, I would say, much nicer and much in a way where I don't need to take care that when something changes upstream in Shopware core, I would need to copy that as well. But I did not need to do that anymore because I could use the upstream features. And I think that this really helps me a lot. And also, of course, when you read, or in that sense, you need to read a lot of code, then you really get to understand the core concepts of Shopware itself. So you really understand how things are done and why they are done in a specific way. That helps also a lot, because when you do a pull request, for example, and then some of the core members say, you cannot do that like that because of blah, blah, blah. Then you know, okay, yeah, I have not thought about this, but of course it's right. And even though I might not use it at the moment, in the future, it will maybe is relevant, and you get to know a lot of things. And because also in the beginning of Shopware 6, the documentation was not that well written, let's say like this, or not that complete. Complete, I would say, is the better word. And so the code was more the documentation. And there also, I think, some concepts changed, but I then really built up in my head how everything works together, how the different flows are, how the different programming flows are, and what the core concepts are. And that helps also a lot. In that sense, one can really profit from, it's a long time effort, I think, but I think one can really profit from that, because when now a customer comes and says, okay, I want to have like this, and this, then I can directly think, okay, when we do it like this, then it's a good thing, because then we don't need to work against the system. And that's basically all the different pieces are there. Yeah. So that also helps a lot.
I like that also what you mentioned, like taking the time of, proposing a change in the core, although it will take a while until this can be put into upstream, but then still having like a workflow of, okay, and I can participate from those enhancements already by doing it like locally, basically in a plugin, but I know it will get into the next version, and then I can react to that and participate from that. I think that's a cool mix of contributing, also keeping it operational, right? Because for a customer project, you cannot wait like month or so until the change is finally in the product. So I think that's a cool flow.
Yeah, so there I also, there is this nice concept of composer patches, which I make quite frequently use of, but only in that sense that I try to always have only temporary patches in the customer project. Because, I will fix some thing in the core, for example, or for the customer, which is, it's not really feasible to do it with a plugin, for example, or so, because it's just a one-line change. Or let's assume you don't have a block in Twig there, then it's really annoying to overwrite all the templates or some admin thing which is not working. And therefore, when I do something for a customer, it's a bit different, because then I directly have a patch for the customer in place, and I can directly have that in the project itself. But I don't want to rebase these patches against new updates of Shopware, so I usually try to bring them upstream. And usually I do it like this, that I sometimes don't fully charge when, for example, sometimes there are, for example, tests, which are also required when you do some patches in Shopware. I do not fully charge them to the customer because that I have sometimes the feeling that would not be fair, but it's a compromise, I would say. But yeah, and I also don't use the tests. I don't include them usually in the patch of the fix itself. So yeah, but then the customer is paying me that I fix the bug. I then take care that I get this upstream, and then in the end, everyone is happy, and I get t-shirts.
As we said, it's also an investment, right? So if you're pushing for a Shopware forward, you're definitely pushing something forward that is important for you, also from a business perspective.
Yes. I mean, in that sense, it's also like a symbiotic relationship, because when Shopware is doing good, then I'm doing good as well. So yeah, therefore, I also see that as an investment in that sense, because yeah, for example, now I did a lot of admin fixes. It was because I thought, okay, I want to have them fixed. And I mean, I also like to sometimes, because they were not really big issues, it was like many minor things, I would say. And I really like to work on them. It was nothing a customer paid me to do. It was like more for fun, and because I needed to test my plugins anyway, and then I saw, okay, there's some pixel mismatch. I will fix that because it's not a big deal, and yeah.
Is there a contribution that you could pinpoint that you are like most proud of, or something that is really satisfying to you?
There have been some, I think. Maybe I'm at the moment I'm doing some rework of the rules and how they influence the cache. I think that might be a really big change, and because also in performance wise for all our customers, I think for everyone. So, and I'm really looking forward to finalizing that. But this is currently in the making. And besides that, I mean, there have been some. I would need to dive deeper into the things I did, because there were a lot of things.
What to say? It's quite a lot. Pretty cool. Nice.
I love it. I really like how you managed to find a balance between contributing and also bringing some value to the company. Is that something that you share with colleagues? Is that only you in the company who's doing that, or is that something that is part of the DNA of your company?
So sometimes I try to say, so it's so and so. Let's say like this. I give definitely the freedom to everyone to do that, but sometimes also the people are too lazy to to do things, and then then sometimes, for example, Flo is telling me, there is this bug, and we need to look into that. I think it's that, and then sometimes I also take then his things and push that forward, and then also add the tests and stuff like that, because tests adding is so yeah, it depends. So everyone has the freedom to do those.
So you're advocating for it, but you're not like expecting that from
No, I don't know. Yes.
And I think that totally makes sense, because if I firmly believe that open source contribution really lives from that, that open, I want to contribute. It's not like I'm forced to, but I have a intrinsic interest in contributing to the solution. And it's all based on what you also already pointed out. We can identify a lot of win-win situations here. Contributing is quite often, it's a win for everybody, and we are fortunately in a situation where we have a lot of those win-win-win situations, where the success of every agency and the success of every customer is also the success of Shopware, and vice versa.
Yeah, I mean, for example, all these plugins, when Shopware is more widely used, then our plugins get more downloads or more rentals, let's say like this. And then, therefore, I definitely also profit from that. And also the customers are more happy to use a product where the things are fixed they have on their pain points. But of course, also for them, sometimes it's, okay, when I say, okay, we would need 5 hours to fix that. And then they say, okay, then it does not really, it's worth that much. And then sometimes I have then some lists where I write things down. And when I sometimes, because I really like programming, to be honest. So it's not like, for me, it's not like work in that sense. It's more like fun. Then sometimes when I'm bored, then I go to or maybe not bored, but I don't want to do the things I actually should do. Let's say like this. Then I go to that list and then I say, okay, now I fix that also. And I have there by now it's a list of, I don't know, 15 things or so, which I have in my mind.
A contribution bucket list.
Yes.
Feature in the community hub. So share your contribution bucket list and maybe others want to participate.
Exactly.
Yeah, I mean, I think that might be in general a good idea that we had, for example, some things which we want to have changed, and then maybe someone can also say, okay, if you do that, I will pay you that amount of money or so. Or I'm sponsor that work basically, because I think oftentimes it's like this. Okay, you have some pain points, a lot of things. So, for example, I did not fix that, but I had a long time. I had this pain point when you were for example, in a product detail view in the administration, and then you press the escape key. You were thrown out to the list again. And this has just been fixed by, I think it was someone from Shopware who fixed this, but this was also on my list, but I never had time to investigate it, and it was not too high on my priority list, but yeah, for example, these would be things which were quite small and where I would like to have, okay, then we have here this and this thing. I could do that, but I need that amount of time. And okay, if I also need to earn some money. So I cannot do that on my free time. Also, I sometimes would like to do that. Therefore, I also would do it for probably less than I would directly do if I would directly
maybe
charge.
like a bounty system, right? So I can report an issue and I can put a bounty on it, and others can put other bounties on it. So we're probably talking about coffee money, right? Or beer money because you're German. So it's like a small amount,
yes.
But this is worth 3 beers to me if you fix it.
Yes, so something like that. I mean, that I would really love to see. And then, it could go both ways. For example, that on the one hand, someone could go and say, okay, I have this issue and I put this amount here. Or I could say, okay, I have this, and this, and this. Do your bidding. If that's a pain point to you, I will fix that.
I really like that idea. It's basically like a bounty program, and people having specific issues that should be fixed. But if it's like directed correctly, it will always be a conversation about, okay, if we fix that, is that a positive thing for the entirety of the community? Does it make sense like holistically for the product? And if so, then everybody should value that, and everybody contributes and everybody participates from that value. And that could be the basis for that kind of bounty idea, because it's something different than if you would just say, hey, I need somebody to program this specific plugin for me, and it's only for me. And that's a complete different thing. So if we base that really on it's all about Shopware contribution and not like customized solutions for certain customers or so. It's about improving the product after all. I think that's a cool idea. That's a really good idea.
Yeah.
Crowdsource bug fixing.
Yes. And I think there are many details one need to think about, for example, what happens if there's a bounty in the community hub and on some feature, then someone says, okay, I will do it. And in the meantime, someone else is doing it so I think there are a lot of details which one needs to think about, but I, in general, would really like that idea, to be honest, because I think that brings also the shop owners together with some developers, and then it would also be for some agencies, it would be good to have like, okay, hey, maybe have a look to look at the things. And then, because I think when you contribute to the core itself, you also learn a lot, as I said before. So you really get to know how, for example, the card processing and collecting, I really needed to do a deep dive basically there and to understand the core concepts there. But by now I have understand them, I think. But it helped a lot to read the code itself of Shopware.
And I'm thinking about right now, everything in the community hub is about appreciation, basically showcasing your activity in the community, and it's about pride also, right?
Yeah.
So if we have that bug bounty or that issue bounty or whatever bounty thing here, it could I guess it could be combined with some kind of like monetary thing, but it could also be like on your profile you have the collected bounties so far, and if you're really active on that, even though maybe all those bounties combined, even though it's maybe only, I don't know, $100 or so, its value for you is even higher because you can even showcase like, hey, you are actively contributing in solving those issues that seem to be really relevant for everybody, because otherwise there wouldn't be a bounty on it. So there's another aspect to that.
Yes, definitely. I mean, and one thing there, there's the important thing that one needs to also think about is, of course, how to ship the code then to the people who paid the bounty. Because, I mean, not everyone can do every update. So, yeah, but I think that that's something I also have in my mind, that I explain this composer patches. I want to write a blog post or something about that, how to really do that, or maybe a learning path in the community hub to how that can be done. Because I think, or at least what I've seen, a lot of people don't use this approach. But you can do it in a very good fashion, I would say, to have these patches, always keeping in mind that they should not be permanent in that sense, because then also a lot of unexpected behavior can happen, which cannot be reproduced, because in the end, you're changing the core files.
Yeah, got it. Yep. I think, if you're writing a blog post, definitely do not forget to share that as a resource in our community hub, but you're even getting XP for that. So
yes,
it's important. And also, yes, we are thinking about, so we are having the learning pathways right now in the community hub already. I think for some lessons, maybe a full path is too much. So we are thinking about something like more block-likey, or just maybe one course with a few units. And so a new format, basically knowledge bits or snackables or whatever we want to call it. That could be contributed by the community as well. And I think, and of course, everybody will gain XP with from that as well. And I think that could utilize the collective knowledge of the community and bring that together, right?
Yes.
Valuable.
Yes.
Absolutely. Max, you have a lot of experience in contributing. And I'm guessing some people here are listening to it and they're like, I'm no Max. I don't know where to start. Can you share some tips and maybe also how the community hub can really help people getting started with sharing?
Yeah, so I probably would start with something which either personally annoys you or a customer says, okay, hey, this is really annoying. And then I think the first step is or maybe also look in the issue tracker, Shopware itself. And then first thing is, I guess, to try to understand how the problem is happening. How I think that involves a lot of, in particular in the beginning, depending on how deep you're or how familiar you are with the Shopware core code itself, it first requires a lot of reading and understanding. Okay, hey, here, these admin components work like this, or in the Symphony thing, okay, these things work together like this. Okay, here we have this subscriber doing that. So, and I think probably the first start that you really like to understand the issue itself, and then think about how to fix it. I mean, there are sometimes maybe you can start, for example, if you do some smaller thing and you want to get too familiar with how, for example, the admin watch process is working, because it will help you a lot when you debug this. Then you can do some small CSS fixes in the administration where some things are not looking good or so, or where you can improve things. For example, I recently did a pull request where I cleaned up the cross-selling module in the in the product view. So something like that I would try to start with. And then, it's really important that you try to really get a deep understanding of the root cause and also all the surrounding code. And then I think the important thing is that you should not be afraid to create a pull request, even if it's not maybe ideal. I would first then, the important thing is that you explain in the pull request itself, okay, I have, for example, if something does not work properly, you have it like 90% done, but 10% do not work. Then you can explain all of these things in the pull request, create a draft pull request, for example, and don't be afraid to create this. And the important thing is that you explain what you've done, what your thoughts were, because then also people can see, okay, it's not just like he spits out code and do it like that, but more like that they really see, okay, hey, this person has really put thought into that, and then everyone is, I guess, willing to also help and guide these to bring this to the finish line. So, and I think it also then depends on which area you want to contribute. You can also maybe clean up some code when you, for example, read a lot through the code. Then you see, okay, here is that is not ideally solved, maybe, or the code is not really readable, maybe. I can refactor it to make it more readable. Yeah, by now you probably can even ask AI, and then not just so like something like Windsurf or so. I like that sometimes too when I write code in a very fast way by now. Then I say to Windsurf, okay, hey, refactor me this code piece here, and then the important thing is that you don't directly commit that, but then really try to understand, okay, hey, this has changed. Okay, I like this this much better than it was before. But it also sometimes is the other way around. Okay, no, I like my solution better. So it's really, I think one needs to use this AI tools in a good way.
Keep control.
But yeah. So I think that's how I would start. And then maybe you can also by now even use agents and just specify what you want to have. And then I have the experience in particular in large code bases like Shopware. When you can explicitly say where to change it, then it does not really work. But it usually gives you hints where you need to change things.
Yeah, I noticed that as well.
Start simple, do something you really care about. Start simple and just do it.
Yes. I would say just do it. And then if you put thought into that and then explain the thoughts, nothing can happen, I think.
And everybody in the Shopware organization explicitly is really is always grateful, really happy about those contributions, because it really powers. It's not only like about the code itself, it's also a feedback channel, right? We understand, okay, those seem to be the things that people are annoyed about.
Yes, because usually when you have things, I mean, it's also then the thing, okay, do we build it for the customer or do we build it for ourselves as developers? So, and I think it's really important that we build it for the people who are using it, so the customers. And yeah, I get a lot of feedback when I have it, when I speak with my customers. Okay, they say, this annoys me, and this annoys me. Probably I wouldn't come up, okay, this is an annoying thing or so.
Yeah.
All right.
And yeah, and then you get XP on the community hub. And also, I think also the people get you see that you get visibility. I think that's really nice about the community hub, because I think in the past it was, for me, the challenge was, okay, I want to be in every release, be contained. I'm not sure if I managed to do that. I mean, but I think so in but in general, this was my goal. Now it's to be in this leaderboard that I also like.
So you say like community hub definitely, making that visible, but also you like the competition with the leaderboard. Like,
yes,
I think it's important to put that into a positive light, because I remember like back in the days when we thought about this, community competition. It's in the end, we could say it's a co-opetition. We are cooperating, but also in competition. But it must be fair and it must be fun in the end, right? If you're playing with how I'm usually playing games with my family. If I cannot win, I just have to make sure the others lose a good way, right? So you're competition.
Yeah, so it's like a additional thing that you do something, for example. I think it's not that, okay, I need to be first every time. And I think that's not something I strive to do, but it's more like, okay, it's a nice benefit and it's nice. It's the small little dopamine kick.
So we are also the community hub is and will always be about the individual. So it's not about like really focusing too much on the agencies, for example. However, we are still planning to have that in Community Hub pretty soon, so that every individual can basically choose, hey, this is the agency I want to put on my profile as well. I talked to different community members about the value of the profile in the Community Hub, and some said like, okay, it's not really important to me. Some others said, okay, well, the profile is immensely important for me because that's my overall standing in the Shopware community and also defines basically my value as a developer. And some others even pointed out like, yeah, we should have those agency flags in there because for agencies, it's also like important to showcase that they are active in the open source world of Shopware. So what's your stand here?
Yeah, I think I can imagine that agencies might even encourage their employees to contribute more, to be honest, because I think it's probably is also a good thing for an agency if they are basically visible in the community hub. And I think I could imagine. Yeah, I mean, I know I understand the point that it should be about the individual person. Yes, but also probably it should be that, okay, agencies get some benefit of that as well, because not there are probably different people. For example, there are freelancers and there are agency workers, for example. And I think for both of them, it's different how they work and contribute to Shopware. But I think in general for agencies, it might be it might be also useful to really get some visibility in that community hub and to showcase, okay, hey, we have 4 people who contribute a lot, for example. And yeah, not sure if one should do like agency leaderboards or so. I probably would not do that, but because that's probably something on the individual basis, maybe it's an idea, but yeah. So I have, in that sense, I have nothing against it. It's would not be my top priority. But I can imagine that it helps a lot for also agencies, because in the end, when you're an employee of an agency, you also get money from them, and so it's
Yeah, I agree. I think right now I wouldn't be a big fan of an agency leaderboard of any sort because it's a lot of factors that could make that unfair. An agency with 100 developers will have some advantage.
Yes, definitely.
An agency with 4 developers, but I think, for example, in the global leaderboard, seeing all those individuals and their rank, if there was a little logo of an agency, and you could just see, okay, wow, in the top 10, there's 2 people from the same agency being really active. Well, that's good for the agency. That's like a really positive sign. And I would doubt that the agency with 100 developers that they would fill up the 100 places. If they do, to them, but
yeah,
it's a bit more fair, I guess.
Probably there it's the same. One needs to try out. It was also in the beginning, it was one needs to balance what gives XP and what does not give XP. But that drove me really that I did a lot of pull requests, to be honest, because they were collecting some XPs. Then it got rolled back. I think. And I noticed.
Rolled back, but we increased the XP of the learning pathways to some degree. But we are right now, to be frank, we are in a continuous process of rebalancing the XP. There was one comment made, for example, by Mark Ressler in our Slack channel that we should enhance the XP for issues being raised on GitHub, compared to issues being raised or just answers being given in the forum. And it's all about a balance game, right? And we will continuously balance and have the general rule of, if it's just a simple game rebalancing, we will just move forward. If we really identified, well, that's really a bug that was wrong, then we have the possibility to also roll back and give XP for things that happened in the past. We have quite an advanced gamification system here.
Yeah, I can imagine. Yeah.
Amazing, Max. If people want to get in touch with you, what is the best way for them to reach out?
Yes. At the moment, I'm active in the Slack. I have in the community Slack. To be honest, I don't write too much in the channels anymore because of time issues. So, but there I am under the name Max with my nickname Aragon999, and also LinkedIn I have, and also you can write me an email. Or if you buy a plugin of ours, then you can write me a ticket.
Right. The best way to contact someone, just write a ticket. You know that you get a fast reply. Right. Fantastic. Well, thank you so much for sharing your journey with us and your insights. I really appreciate it. I think you've rightfully earned that first place on the leaderboard. Let's see if you can keep it and maybe inspire some people to come after you. But yeah, pleasure to have you on the podcast. Thank you very much.
Thank you as well. Have a nice day. Bye.